Uncle Trump has one shot, one opportunity to stop the death of America. One moment with the freedom of vengeance. But what DC with, y'all?
Vivek's palms are sweaty, his next big job gets heavy. There's curry on his sweater already, mom's tandoori. He's nervous, but DOD is getting all ready to drop bombs, cause he gon' got the fat with Vetty. He goes down, DC crowd cries so loud. He opens his mouth, the words if I just come out. They choking now, we the people joking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, blah. Snap back, DOD, Elon, place with gravity. Oh, grab your bureaucracy, choke, he's so ready. No boast, make it look easy. No, he works at it, he knows they push him into these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope, deceased, morally broke. He's so glad that he knows bureaucrats kill you permanent hope. That's when he back on attack, yo, these hope. DOD better go capture this moment and hope it don't pass. Lose yourself in the mag of the moment, you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot tonight, miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose yourself in the mag of the moment, you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot tonight, miss your chance to blow. This opportunity.
Okay, well, it's my pleasure to welcome back Chris Birt, a photojournalist from a state and a location that I thought was a very cold state, but it seems to be in the middle of a hurricane storm of some kind. Well, welcome back to Magic Kingdom Report.
Thank you very much, Sammy. Glad to have me. Glad to see you guys again. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot to get into, and you've been busy documenting some of these demonstrations. Let me just start out with showing our audience Representative Ilhan Omar kind of encouraging the demonstrations and
refused to back down. You all have decided that this resistance is not one that can be intimidated. We are showing the nation that regardless of what the tyrant in the White House believes, we know that we are here to stay, and this is our country. We are going to make a life here, and we are going to stand up for our neighbors here in Minneapolis.
Given how much heat there is and the administration's scrutiny, would you tell Americans it's too dangerous to demonstrate and to go out and document as she was doing?
I think it is really important for Americans to record, to create the level of accountability and transparency.
And then let me just go to your some of your photos and videos, and then I'd like to hear what you've been seeing. Let me.
This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
What was her name?
Renee Good.
Y'all sure? What was her name?
Renee Good.
No justice!
No peace.
What I do want to say is we gotta stand up together for this orange man.
Fuck Katie Vance!
Katie Vance! Motivate to the top for the fire.
Fuck those vile fuckers!
We want ICE out. We want tyranny out. We want fascism out of our community. Can I get it in fascism? Can I get it in fascism? Say it like you mean it. In fascism. Thank you for your time.
That we love our immigrant neighbors, legal or not. That immigrants make this city better, make this city filled with love, and we love them back.
She was a hero!
Okay, so let me.
Yeah, I forgot that was pretty good. That is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I find very interesting about it is the coaching, right? It's so organic to be coached, to coach the people.
Yeah. That's exactly what's going on. The coaching. Yeah. So let me speak to a few things in that video. Yeah, well, actually, what I'll do is why don't you scroll down? I can just talk a little bit about each of some of these. Okay, so like take that 250, click up, open that one. Yeah, open that one. So, there is this, they're all, so the fuck ice, you know what? I'm sorry, guys, but I've gotten to the place where you can edit that out, but F ice, there's so much vile profanity that it's, I don't know. It's gotten to where it's like, what do I do? How do I censor myself? But the bottom line is that seems to be the operative word. So during George Floyd, it was kill cops, murder cops, slave catchers,
Right.
F the police. And now it's all F ICE. That's their kind of rallying cry. And,
I mean, there's a very important point you're making, which is, it's not, we disagree with the policy of the president. It's F the president, the ICE is evil, right? It's that kind of...
Absolutely. And right. I think what's happening is, I think that the bottom line to this whole thing, and I'm not a scholar and it doesn't matter, it's probably better that I'm not, but I mean, I think the meta conversation, the conversation on top of the conversation, the narrative, if you will, here is right. That in 2020, it was all about distrust the police. So, right. Distrust the local police, kill the local police, get rid of the local police. All cops are bastards, get rid of that capitalist structure. And right. Now it is navigated to kill the federal government, kill the federal police.
Right.
So, that federal police, so federal law enforcement. So at first, Floyd was really local law enforcement, and this is now directed against federal law enforcement. So the end game, if you think about it philosophically, is end all law enforcement, period. No law enforcement.
Right.
And then the follow-up to that is clearly no borders whatsoever. No,
right.
Because you'll notice that young woman, right? She goes, we love all of our neighbors, legal or illegal.
Right. Right. Sure.
And it also seems like this is like a 2.0 from George Floyd, right? Because they work. These lunatics, their agenda worked where the officer was arrested, even though the videos showed that he was not guilty.
Yeah.
But they know that if they push their agenda in this organized fashion, that they may get success. The only difference is we've been fooled once with the George Floyd, so I'm not sure how far they're going to get with this. What is your opinion on that?
Well, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, I mean, one of the things is that when you guys, reached out to me, then I started looking at some videos on your channel, and I'd never seen the extended George Floyd video. I'd never seen what transpired before all of what happened. And I mean, that was a tragedy, and they captured it right at the wrong. They got just the wrong moment that they got on video, and in this case, I'm not. There's two things I see on the ground. The first thing I see is that, unlike the George Floyd riots, the federal government is different now, right? So they're totally, well, actually, in Trump's case, he was president, but the Minnesota was in charge, and hence why they didn't call out the National Guard for 5 days, and they would have saved $500 million in damage, et cetera, et cetera. This time, I think that the federal government is out en masse, and there will be up to 3,000 federal agents here, and there's only 600 Minneapolis police. And the police have already been, told not to cooperate with law enforcement. So I think what will happen is I think there's so much federal presence here that I'm not exactly sure what will happen. We could talk about it a little more as we go through this, but it's a little, I guess, Anastasia, I'm saying it's a little less clear what the end game might be. Now, recently, everything's happening so fast here. The attorney that was in charge of the fraud investigation resigned yesterday, along with, 6 of his staff. Now, something's going on there. I don't know what's going on there, but the reason that's pertinent is I don't think he's made a statement, so I think it's all reporting. But why that's pertinent is the reporting, which has generally been, the mainstream media, so it's very left-oriented. The stated reason is that they would not allow him to, so they put the Renee Good investigation on his plate. And they had said in that he was not, they wanted him to interview or investigate the so-called wife of Renee Good. And I say so-called because it's not established whether she was actually married to her or not. But the bottom line is that he said he resigned because he didn't like the thrust of the investigation, right? He thought that she should be part of it. And additionally, that he was protesting, I guess, that the BCA, Bureau of Criminal Apprehension here in the Twin Cities, was not going to be part of the investigation. Okay, so now here's the thing. It's a federal case. So once it's a federal case, the local BCA doesn't have to be, they don't need, there's no precedent for them being involved, and so, I think that it's going to be settled at that level, but because of that, that will inflame, in other words, look at it this way. When they arrested, when they sent Chauvin to prison, part of that was due to avoid social unrest, following that. But in this case, the officer, it won't turn out the same way right now, right? There won't be an arrest of the officer. The officer won't be sent to prison. I don't know what will happen. And but the point is, when that happens, right, that will, I'm sure, conflagrate into even more violence here.
Yeah, so recently I interviewed Art Del Cuerto, who is 21 years border agent, and we looked at the footage, and one of the things he said is, yes, you're correct, that it is a federal issue, but it does not prevent. So once and most likely it'll be, it'll be let go because he followed policy. If your life is, at stake, you have the right to defend the life and so forth. And there is different video perspectives of it.
Yeah.
The media shows the one where you can't see.
That's right.
But on his body cam and also from that angle, you clearly see that the man was hit. And he was defending his life. So federally, he'll be let go of the charges. It'll be cleared. But the state has the right to take on the case, from what I understand. And also, it doesn't, just because federally they might release the case, does not shield him from a civic lawsuit.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so this
so you have much better, you have a much better reporting on that.
He's gonna have years of hell going forward because of this incident.
He's probably gonna have to be put in, witness protection or something, because again, from what I've seen, what I see is, well, let's go back to my pictures if you don't mind. I can show you a few more. I'm really glad you showed that video because you see kind of what's going on here. But let's see. Let's scroll down. You could show some of these. Yeah. So those are the organizers that are leading the protests, right? And now, just to be clear, those are one of many organizers that are leading these protests. But the thing that's so why don't you click on 252 there? Okay, so you could see here this is at 34th and Portland where the incident occurred, right? And I've been down there 3 times in the last 5 days, and the first factoid to bring out about kind of street level observation, the first street level observation to bring out about these protests is, unlike George Floyd, I would say the massive protesters were these 25-year-olds, that were protesting. So it was a lot of 25-year-olds, and then it was a lot of obviously bussed in Antifa contingent protesting there. It was heavily Antifa, hence all the, the anarchy signs and everything else. This protest, however, is almost exclusively, it feels, locally generated. And the makeup of the protests, from what I've seen, and I base this on the protests that are happening at the place where she was shot, those protests, the makeup of the audience is approximately 80% Somali, and it is led by Somalians, Somalians and Hispanics. That's so I would say it's probably, I say 80, let's say more like 70% Somali, 20% Hispanic, and then 10%, young white punks without jobs, and the kind of no kings people. But and additionally, the leaders of these protests, as you can see in this photograph, it's usually a Somali person and then a Hispanic person leading the protests. And again, unlike the protests in George Floyd, there is a religious component. You'll notice there was, what are they? There was a guy leading prayer and that kind of thing, right? That's what the difference is. Now, the protests that are taking place out at the Whipple building, which is the federal building where the agents are leaving from in the morning and the evening, that tends to be, I would say, that underage 25-year-old, unemployed, vile, white kids protesting that.
Right.
But I think that's what's interesting about this is is that this really is a Somali kind of very heavily Somali contingent in this protest. A majority Somali and led by Somalians, and then some Hispanics. Now, this is kind of, I guess you could say, off the record, because I don't have this as a fact, but one of the things that is true is that Minneapolis does have a problem with gangs, and the sort of almost accommodationist mayor and city council, have done nothing. They haven't done anything about it. So the Somali gangs control the north side of Minneapolis, and then Trendy Aragua kind of uses Minnesota as a distribution point in the south. So I think maybe that also might be, to some extent, why you're seeing this kind of Somali Hispanic representation in these riots.
Wow. And are you saying the mayor is hesitant to confront that or deal with that?
Oh, it's not. I mean, not meant, hesitant. No mention whatsoever. In fact, it's to the contrary, embracing it wholly. I mean, eating Somali food, a video of him, sucking up, trying to eat Somali food and, choking and trying to speak in Somali. And, and again, I go back to this leitmotif here, which is, we love our neighbors, legal or illegal. In other words, no law enforcement whatsoever, no immigration policy whatsoever. Immigration enforcement is invalid, illegal, meant to be protested. And I think it's usurping federal authority. I mean, there's no doubt about it,
Well, it makes a lot of sense because a lot of the Somalis, and again, this is not a racist. These are just facts we're talking about.
Correct.
And they keep, like the mayor and the governor and the attorney general, they all, instead of answering the questions, they keep saying how Trump is a racist and that says, which, is boldly just so obvious that they're avoiding the facts, and we know that this type of corruption has been happening, this type of fraud, for many, many years. And thank God for the whistleblowers in your state
Yeah.
who have been ringing that bell and now have the opportunity in front of Congress to be able to make these reports. And this is why, as we know, the public knows that Tim Walz will not run for a third term, and it is reported that he may be resigning this week altogether because of the pressure. But as far as the Somalis are concerned, we have numbers anywhere from 78 to 85% that are on public assistance.
You are correct in that, Anastasia. Yes, yes.
So the fact that they may be losing, because, once the fraud is uncovered, the corruption,
correct,
they may be losing those funds. So they're fighting for their dear lives because they don't want that cash cow stopping.
Right. Absolutely right. And I appreciate the fact, and we've always been respectful in our conversations, the three of us, that this is not a racist issue. I mean, I have had wonderful interactions with Somalis. There was a guy where I left my computer at a restaurant. It was a $5,000 computer, and I came back and he had it for me in a plastic bag, and it just and I worked with the designer who's a Somali. So I mean, individually, and then there's Hirsan Ali, but collectively as a political bloc, there is no doubt that the thing is there's something in the culture where it's clannish. It's they bond together, they do business amongst themselves, and they corner a market and they thoroughly dominate it, right? And it's kind of like cornering the silver market. Well, they basically realize that the mayor and the governor are plain stooges, fellow travelers, and they've completely taken advantage of that. They're remarkably enterprising in the way they've been able to colonize, healthcare, food, shelter, everything. And you're right, in a way, they're fighting for their lives because when the money's turned off, right? What's going to happen? And here's the thing. So, Richard, your question, what is the mayor, complicit or whatnot? Well, I'll tell you this much. The reason why the Somali story is so pertinent is, the quid pro quo here has been, we'll give you the votes, but you let us do whatever we want, right?
Right, exactly. And I'm sure if there are any Somalians who don't like what they see, I'm sure they probably have a strong incentive to keep their mouth shut.
They do.
So
yeah, I had a cab ride with the Somali cab driver. Well, I had a cab ride because when I was covering the riots, Minneapolis, it's such a joke, the mayor, the potholes. So I had a flat tire. So I had to leave my car downtown, right? So I got a ride back to my house from a Somali cab driver. And, he was like saying, hey, don't equate me with what's going on. I'm an American citizen. I work 3 jobs, and he says, and I don't even I don't support what, Ilhan Omar is saying. Right. She is public citizen number 1 for fraud.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing is go into public office, create a nonprofit, pass laws in Congress that will enable you to relax or eliminate any safeguards whatsoever to create businesses, and then have those businesses give you kickbacks. Hence $30 million. Hence $30 million gained through her white husband involved in quote unquote deal making, third husband, $30 million increase in salary or in income in 1 year.
Right, since 2018. She came in with a net gain of minus.
That's correct.
In Congress.
That's right.
And all of this is coming out, which I'm so happy, because you can only ride that wave of you're a racist, you're a homophobe for only so long, where it means nothing.
Right.
And I think that's the only point. I think that's good that we're at. But I'm glad to hear that there are, good people from Somalia who are reporting these things to you and to others. But, to be clear, ICE has a job to do which is they come in with their papers. They have names of people who have been indicted or have committed crimes or whatever it is, and they go and they hunt them out. Okay, and it's really easy. You know, a state can make things easier for them. If they're already in jail, they could pick them up from there and they don't have to disrupt anything. Or they may choose, like your state, you know, and other blue states, where they want to fight it all the way because they don't want them to leave. So I think for the people watching outside, I think there is some obvious things that maybe when George Floyd erupted, people weren't so open to understanding. But it's the corruption is corruption, and the fact that millions and millions of dollars have been going out on the planes where I know coming from Europe, right, or wherever I'm traveling, $700 million,
right, $700 million in cash in suitcases leaving the Minneapolis airport. Crazy. You know, and Anastasia and Richard, you know, I think what you're also getting at, and you've actually opened my eyes here. The reason why Minnesota is ground zero is this whole thing is inextricably linked to the complete abolition of immigration enforcement whatsoever, and the complete opening of, you know, unfettered illegal immigration, and the Somali community of 100,000 here in Minnesota, the largest in the country. And the reason the protest is so strong is exactly that. You cut off the funds, they cut off their livelihood.
That is really okay. Well, look, I'm going to show you two things. One, let me just show you there's some young Somali woman who thinks that fraud is good. So let me just share about that.
The moment that did it for me. This is a very popular Somali TikToker who is openly bragging about how much the Somali community defrauds the American taxpayer.
Why would you get caught? You scammed the government, cool. Why? Now the Galas are turning on us and they're questioning the legitimacy of all Somali businesses. Now this is horrible PR for us.
Just a reminder that there's so much fraud in just Minnesota that it rivals the GDP of Somalia. That's how efficient these people are at committing massive state-level fraud, and we probably don't even know the half of it. Anyway, she's laughing about it, and then she threatens Elon Musk's life for exposing it. This is how it works, by the way, in the third world.
I wouldn't worry too much about this one. I wouldn't worry too much about him. He about to die.
It is something that caused Elon Musk, in response to this, to say, this is war. Elon Musk understands this ideology because Elon Musk is from South Africa.
So she literally threatened Elon Musk and said, we're going to take care of him. He's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's outrageous.
Right.
Well, I mean, in many countries, that if you violate what the Klan wants, that's what happens, right?
Right. Seeing it in Iran right now.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. All right, let me show you here. Okay, this is how the protests are being manufactured and staged. And here's an attorney talking about that issue.
Maybe a poll watcher on election day. What the hell is a legal observer? This is some sort of term they're using. I guess they grabbed it from Amnesty International to try to say there's nothing wrong with somebody being a legal observer of law enforcement. And I guess theoretically there isn't anything wrong until your legal observing actually impedes law enforcement from doing their constitutional duty, puts them at risk, and you ignore them when they tell you to stand down, which is exactly what we saw. But isn't it uncanny that within minutes of each other, all of these Democrats all used the exact same language in the same phony description of the woman who lost her life yesterday? Legal observer? Really? Is that what she was? Well, let's let Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem describe what this woman's actions were yesterday, and you tell me if you think this is just benign legal observation.
Vehicle counters? Are you going to change the way
people need to stop using their vehicles as weapons.
Are you going to change
this domestic act of terrorism to use your vehicle to try to kill law enforcement officers is going to stop. And I'm asking the Department of Justice to prosecute it as domestic terrorism because it's clear that it's being coordinated. People are being trained and told how to use their vehicles to impede law enforcement operations and then to run over anybody who gets in their way while they go out there and try to disrupt peace and public safety. And Americans deserve better.
All right. Now, you can quibble with the term domestic terrorism, and we'll get to that later. But the fact of the matter is an automobile, a vehicle, is a deadly weapon. And we've seen months and months and months of protests in the streets of major cities in America where these trained and organized activists use their weapons to impede officers and put their lives in danger, not to mention the fact that we have ICE officers who have been shot at over and over and over again, with their lives threatened and their privacy threatened through doxing. So, what does the responsible mayor of Minneapolis say about this? Well, like any responsible elected official trying to calm down the situation on the ground in his city, he went and reached across the aisle and appeared on MS Now with Jen Psaki to lie and rile up the choir.
We just showed some images of what appeared to be large-scale peaceful protests tonight in response. We have reporters on the ground who, of course, covering them. Tell us what the scale of those.
Okay, I think I'll spare you the the politician talking there, but any comments, Chris?
When this happens, it sort of forces people to become experts in police, law enforcement, and what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, or who acted in what way. But I think that the bottom line is that there are. Let me just say that this is what's happening. And again, I call it a contradistinction to what happened in the George Floyd riots. What is happening right now, and this is based on my on-the-ground reporting, if you will, my picture taking, my movie making on the ground. Maybe I would say 10 different times in the last 5 days, that the main thrust of these protests is they're not people in a line protesting with the barrier between law enforcement and the so in George Floyd it was people protesting with the National Guard standing there. This is really not protesting. This is like attempting to impede,
right?
Attempting to impede the law, actively attempting to impede law enforcement itself. So the enforcement of the law, or apprehending or arresting people. And it goes on, they go on, it escalates. I've been there. The other night what they were yelling got more vile and more vile and more vile. And then as cars left the facility, they started to try to block the cars, right? And they basically are inviting, they want it to result in pepper sprays, arrests.
Right.
They want that theater. So that's exactly what they're trying to do.
Okay. Well, just to support what you're saying, let me show you. I'm not trying to recruit, but
right.
If you go to defend612.com,
right,
there's a whole. They have posters that you can print out. I mean, some of these are actually quite elaborate works of art. Burn ice.
Yep.
Ice melts under heat. Stop Minnesota Nice. Abolish ICE.
Right.
Terror ICE. I mean, yeah. So there's the artwork, and then here they teach you how to blow your whistle.
Right.
so that you can communicate with your whistle with other protesters. And here we go. Yeah, so you actually can, I guess, order these whistles. Yeah, MSP whistles. That's what Minneapolis, St. Paul whistles.bluesky.social.
Yeah.
And yeah, here's more about the protests. Let me go now to Governor Walz.
National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community, they're business owners, they're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. We will not take the bait. We will continue to update you, Minnesota, as we get more information.
Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government. I think in this case that the National Guard is their main mission. They have a dual mission.
The governor is saying that he wants to call it the National Guard to protect Minnesota residents from the federal government.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, this reminds me of the Governor Wallace protecting the citizens of Alabama from integration from
absolutely
federal troops.
There's a direct correlation, but it's coming from Walz, who's I mean, he, yeah, I mean, I'm not, whatever, he is what he is, but no, there's no doubt, yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, there's no doubt that both the mayor and the governor, both who have been the beneficiaries of over $9 billion in illegal funding to their campaigns and everything else, they are fighting for their they're fighting for their lives. They're fighting for their existence, and in addition to the community. So of course, when you put somebody's, I mean, I hate to be so crass, but it's their pocketbook that's at stake, isn't it? It's ultimately what it gets down to. It's like they're going to lose their money.
Well, I got to tell you. I just want to say real quick, as I'm hearing you, I'm actually becoming, dare I say, hopeful, because who's going down right now? It's not the administration. Who's going down is Walz. He's victim number one. He had to take the responsibility because everything is networked to him. Right. So it's not going to look good for the party. So the party will give fresh meat if they can to try to subside, and it's not subsiding. Right. So who's next? Illar almost seems to be next. So I'm actually hopeful for Minnesota, because I think once you guys clear up the fraud and corruption, you may be able to have a great state once again.
And Minnesota was on the cover of Time magazine in 1972, and they said the good life in Minnesota. The state was known for the good life. The state was known for clean government, of all things. The state had some politicians that were, some were somewhat liberal, some were somewhat conservative, but there was a very healthy, thriving state, and that is how Minnesota made its reputation. They called it the Minnesota Miracle.
Right.
And, in the last, like I say, since the administration of Tim Walz, since his ascendance, this state has been destroyed. I mean, it's been turned into it's just been turned into a national sideshow for everything that's wrong with government, with race relations, with everything.
And can you imagine, Chris, that this person, your governor, I mean, this horrendous fraud, was a hairline away from running this country?
No, I know. That's the other thing. And, and the other thing that's sad in a way is that we talk a lot about in Minnesota, they use the term Minnesota nice, right? Well, that comes out of the Scandinavian tradition of being polite to everybody and not wanting to rock the boat. So, you get somebody like Walz, and he's got that fake folksy crap atmosphere about him, right?
Right.
And so a lot of people are swayed by that. And it's like I say, when the devil comes back, he's not going to be, he's not going to have horns. He's going to look like,
right.
He's going to look like a nice, unassuming pastor with blonde hair, right?
Right. That's true.
I'm not calling Walz the devil. I don't really engage in that kind of conversation, but
Right.
it's the entire administration from the top down, because it's Walz and it's Ellison and and the thing is, I'm gonna, we could continue on endlessly on this, but I think the other thing is, that in 2022, so at the beginning of the second Walz administration, the state had a surplus of $18 billion, the largest surplus in state history, which essentially means they overcollected the taxes, right? $18 billion. Within 2 years, the state was in $11 billion deficit. And when they had that surplus, they turned around and they added another $9 billion in taxes. So in 2023 alone, the government that had, and they held all choke points in the Minneapolis, they held all positions of power. The governorship, the state senate, the state senate, all of the senators, the attorney general. And that's when, the Somali fraud kicked up into high gear. And just so you know, last but not least, they just passed a new law that's gone into effect now, called the Paid Leave Act. Have you heard about that?
No.
Oh my God. It's 1.5, it's a $1.5 billion new law that people can take up to 12 months, people can take up to 3 months paid leave, paid partially by the employer, to care for a loved one, or if they had personal issues, they can take 3 months off of work. It's the newest, teed up for the most massive fraud imaginable.
Wow.
That's insanity.
Well, I mean, look, you've got a lot of snow in Minnesota, and shoveling the driveway is stressful, and people need a 3-month break.
I'll tell you, and the thing is, so just like everything else, they thought they'd have 12,000 applicants, right? They had 7,000 applicants in the first day for this, right? So, the other thing I was going to say to you guys, are there other things you wanted to cover with me or ask me? You have all of my photographs, and
yeah,
I love the fact that you brought up those signs, Richard, because one of the things I've tried to do, and I'll add some more pictures to the drive, but I've tried to capture some of the signs, so that F ice is what you see all over the place, right?
Yeah.
If you scroll down, I think I have some more signs there. Yeah, that's kind of a cute one, right? And here's a classic, like when I say these punks that come out and protest, right? That's pretty much a poster picture for the kind of people that are, protesting the ICE agents at the Whipple building,
No fat phobia. No fat phobia. Wow, they threw that.
No transphobia. I don't know, Scroll back up though just for a second. Because there's another one that's particularly vicious that says, "I wish your face would melt off in hell." I don't know if that's there, but yeah, that one. See that?
Oh, this one.
Yeah, and that's actually a tremendous picture, if I may say. Notice how I captured the light there.
Yeah.
In the upper left-hand
corner. Fire. It's beautiful.
Right? And look at her. Her hair looks like the flames, right?
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, if they had a Pulitzer Prize for real journalism, right? Maybe they'd look at that. But the interesting thing about that, guys, too, is so that poster, okay, that was on Friday, so the day right after, or actually that was the afternoon when they started protesting after the shooting had happened, and I saw that same poster carried by another protester at the Whipple building last night.
No kidding.
Oh, and by the way,
this
I
is
was
Christy
hit with the rubber bullet and tear gas too at that time. So,
I'm sorry. What about what about the rubber bullet? What?
Yeah. So one of the things I might wanted to add, may want to throw this into the video is I haven't really taken a shower or changed my clothes for 5 days. Because I have a job, right? So I do my job and then I do my photojournalism. And a lot of my pictures have been published now in Alpha News, which is a great reporting outfit here.
Mm-hmm.
And so my shirt's a little wrinkled, and my camera, I don't have my professional camera gear set up for the podcast. But yeah, I haven't slept. I really haven't been able to change my clothes for 5 days or shave. And 2 nights ago when I went out, like I say, that happened, where it was, they just kept egging them on and egging them on and egging them on. And then they finally said, this is enough. And they either released pepper spray or tear gas. I don't know. It's been on my clothes for like 3 days. So, and then I was hit by a rubber bullet too. So.
Okay. Well, journalism can be quite dangerous, but I didn't know it was dangerous in Minnesota.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, in Minnesota. Yeah. And that's, and to be honest, what are they supposed to do? I mean, and these idiots, these complete idiots, probably the transphobia, homophobia, whatever the t-shirt, they start throwing firecrackers, for God's sake.
Right.
So, I mean, a firecracker and a gunshot sound exactly the same.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
I even saw a video of people shooting fireworks at ICE agents. Fireworks.
Yeah. They are. They're shooting fireworks at ICE agents, Yeah. And so I have a inhaler now, mask, that I'm definitely going to be using. I get really freaked out when I ingest anything into my lungs, and stuff. And it's just, I got to tell you, it's like, so it was in my car, and, I got in and I went to a meeting this morning in my car, right? And suddenly my eyes started watering. I started coughing again because all that pepper spray and tear gas is in my car.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Well, but you could be reassured that, your governor wants you to be able to take off 3 months to recover.
Yeah, that's right. Now I could say, I get to take off 3 months because, I got tear gassed, Okay, I need 3 months off. Yeah, right.
Well, Chris, we really thank you for coming back on the show. We love having you. And we love the fact that you are our journalist on the ground over in Minnesota. Keep yourself safe.
I will.
We're happy to hear correspondence from you periodically because it's not over.
No, it's not over. It's not over because, so there are 2,000 agents and now there's going to be 1,000 more that come in. So I think it's going to continue. And I really do appreciate our conversations because I think that, when you listen to our conversations, right, what are we doing? We represent a position, but we're also we're not racists and, we are having a conversation just about the human condition, and
true.
And it's really sad the things that are going on right now. And you both obviously have good reporting on your own and you're extremely well educated and, the things that Walz and the administration are doing here. And like you said, Richard, I mean, it does raise the issue of, federalism. I mean, where does it go? Where, are you going to mobilize your own National Guard against the federal government for attempting to enforce immigration policy? And yes, there obviously are going to be abuses. They're going to arrest the wrong person. They're going to throw people to the ground. There's going to be incidents that happen, which are tragic. But that doesn't negate the fact that we have to have immigration enforcement and borders, or we are not a country. No country is a country without borders.
That's right. That's right.
So, kind of my final word, I guess.
All right. Well, thank you again, Chris. And we really love your work. And
thank you.
And I'm
You're
sure
welcome. Anytime. Appreciate it.
I'm sure there'll be more material to talk about.
I'm sure there will be. Absolutely. So thank you very much. Just update me. Okay.
All right.
Uncle Trump has one shot, one opportunity to stop the death of America. One moment with the freedom of interest, but with DC written young.